Hello, hello, good day, and welcome to Open Conversations with International Coaches. As you can see, there are only two of us today. We're missing Steve, and we are actually really missing Steve. So please, send good thoughts, good vibes his way. He could really do with some of that right now. But today we're here to talk about journaling. And I am really excited, and I guess Cass is excited too, but we're always excited, aren't we? For the topics that we're talking
Absolutely.
about. So I'm going to allow Cass to introduce herself and then I'll introduce myself and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm an abundance coach working out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I offer my services both in person and virtually. As an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we discover the power of tools like affirmations, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few, with an overarching goal to achieve a more harmonious balance in life. So if you find yourself feeling stuck and you're focusing on everything going wrong in your world right now, reach out. Let's do a discovery call because I'd love the opportunity, if we're a good fit, to see where all the abundance already is in your life right now. You can find me at cassjhenry.com. And I'll turn it back to you, Shelly Ann.
Thank you. Yeah, journaling is one of those really, it's one of those tools that you can use for everything because even in my stuff, and for those of you who, if this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We would love to hear your thoughts, your comments about the episode, and you can go back and check, previous episodes. We're actually at episode 35 today, so there's a lot of conversations that happened before. I am Shellyan Edwards Barron, and I am a gratitude guide and habit coach. And for me, as you can imagine, gratitude is like the keystone foundation for everything. And we are going to be talking about gratitude journaling today because I think it's super important. It's something that I do every day, and it's something that I teach my clients to do as well. It sounds very simple, but it has a really profound effect because sometimes when I know for me it happened and for lots of other people it happened as well, when we turn 40 we sort of kind of wake up and suddenly realize we're an adult and we have to go about adulting, and we start looking at our lives and thinking, am I where I need to be? Am I where I think I should be? And lots of questions come up. And then what happens is that we figure, well, okay, we need to add this and add that and do all sorts of things to bring ourselves to where we would like to be. And that quite often leads to overwhelm. And when it leads to overwhelm, we get to a point where we do feel stuck and like nothing works. And that's where gratitude comes in. Through that daily habit of gratitude that I engage with my clients, they learn how to see the positive in their life. And then from that foundation, they can implement other habits that actually get them to where they need to be while they're enjoying their lives and not feeling as if something is ultimately missing. So I have that under the umbrella of the gratitude strategy. And so for the gratitude strategy, we look at saying it right, which is managing self talk, making sure that we are as positive and empowering as possible. And then we look at saying it loud, which is making it tangible and bringing the gratitude into the physical world. And then we look at saying it always, which is that daily habit. And so if you're interested in gratitude and fascinated about how gratitude can actually do this, you can do two things. I have a series of conversations that I've done with another colleague of mine called Getting It Done with Gratitude. You can look for that on YouTube. We did it for a year, so there are quite a few episodes to go through, starting from the beginning of what gratitude is and how it works, and getting into making it practical. And the second thing you can do is to find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or even Instagram. Send me a message and let's set an appointment and we can have a chat. I love talking about gratitude and how it works for me and how it worked for my other clients. So I'd really love to have that conversation. And so today, I am going to be infusing as much about gratitude into journaling as I possibly can, as Cass would allow. as we're having this conversation because I think that combination of gratitude and journaling is extremely, extremely powerful. It has been for me. And I know when it comes to journaling, as Cass said, she is an abundance coach. And gratitude, see, gratitude is in my head still. Journaling is one of the things that she engages her clients with. And I know that Cass has also done presentations on journaling. It is that involved and that profound, and sometimes that underestimated. So there's really a lot to talk about where journaling is concerned. So, Cass, get us started with some ideas about journaling, and what it is for people who might not be too sure what exactly we're talking about.
Yeah. So journaling is a form of reflective writing that lets you sort of get mental and emotional clarity and validate experiences that you've had and come to a deeper understanding of yourself. So, one of the things that I have done with journaling, and I'm just going to get us right into it, is I've done a couple conversations with another networking group about not journalism, journaling, and I've got a little bit of a slides to show. So I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to leave as much space as I can for us to chat about what's going on. So here we go. Uh, so what is journaling? Here we go. Journaling is a form of reflective writing that enables the writer to gain mental and emotional clarity, validate experiences, and come to a deeper understanding of themselves. Is there more
Mhm.
that you would add to that?
I guess when you come to the different types, because I for some journaling, like the journaling that I engage with a lot of the time is called focus journaling, and that isn't so much of a reflection as it is more of a plan or planning, the days to come and so on, because I deal with productivity, and there is that form of journaling. So on the one hand, it's
Right.
called a planner because we do engage in planning, but it's also journaling because it includes some of that reflection, but it's coupled with some other things. So, in terms of the reflective writing, I guess that's the part of the planner that is actually a journal, and then we have the planning together that make it the focus journal. So, I guess when we talk about the different types, we can get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. It, so, some of the benefits from journaling is that it can help reduce stress, increase relaxation, as well as lower anxiety and rumination. It's important to note that a journal is not a replacement for therapy, but it can definitely feel therapeutic while you're doing it. One of the things that I have definitely been told is that if you aren't already in a journaling practice where you've started to do it regularly, that you should start off slow and small. Set a
Mhm.
timer for yourself, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes being the max at the beginning, or set a page number, like 3 pages that you're going to fill, and don't go beyond that because you can really sort of depending on the topic that you're writing about, you can really end up in a bit of a hole where you're like just digging forever, and it can
Yeah.
get you into some not great places.
And it's meant to reduce stress. So it's not meant to be rigid and to create stress. So I know I can tell you this: when I first started journaling, the way my mind works, I had, these boxes and categories and this structure that I felt okay, the journal had to be this way. And over time I realized that a journal is what it is when you need it, how you need it, and it doesn't necessarily have to look one way or another, but it really depends on your intention and what you're hoping to get out of it. Then you journal in particular ways. And so, and one of the things while you were speaking that came to mind is, if you're just getting started and you're unsure about what to do a little bit of research, even if it's to have a conversation with someone else or do some reading, read a couple blogs. I know, Cass, you have a few blogs on journaling, so you can check
Absolutely.
out Cass's blog. to get a few ideas about how to get started, because you don't want to make journaling a chore. And sometimes I know it, even things that are useful to us can eventually turn into chores if we, come um with a mixed mindset, or, I guess the baggage that we're bringing to the conversation of journaling. Yeah, it could get out of hand. It did with me. That's why I'm confessing this, and I'm warning. I'm issuing a
Yep.
caution. It did with me. I had to rein myself back a little bit so that it doesn't become another problem.
Yeah, so they say that adding a regular routine of journaling to your week can lower stress and anxiety, keep your memory sharp, boost your mood, improve immune function, and strengthen emotional function. I can always drop this link for the source if anybody's looking for it. Uh, Oops. Um, they've actually done studies that show that journaling can improve immune function. I think that's fabulous. You know, the first couple are what I knew about, what makes sense, that like journaling is definitely designed to lower your stress and anxiety. And I can
Mhm.
see how reflective journaling, writing about things that have happened, and maybe going over them can boost your mood and keep your memory sharp. But I had no idea that it was so powerful to be able to use journaling for this.
Yeah, and what's not on the list would be the impact of all of those changes. So when you have lower stress and anxiety, and your memory is sharper, and your mood is boosted, we tend to sleep better. We tend to have better relationships. We tend to be more confident about who we are and what we're doing when we're in that state. And I guess that's why that last line, strengthen emotional function. It's really about awareness when we journal, especially about, situations and experiences and our feelings. We are more aware of what feelings are coming up, and we're able to address what we see and those kinds of things. So these are like the core that have such a profound ripple effect on the rest of our lives. And for me, gratitude journaling is one of the ways where when I started researching gratitude and writing it down, not just speaking it, the act of physically writing it down, there's actual research that says we get that happy hormone fix when we do these things. And so we're talking about
Oxytocin, is that the one you're talking about?
oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, all three.
Oh wow, all three of them.
Yeah, all three of them are actually present when we go through gratitudes, and the extra act of writing it down so that we can read it back to ourselves and read it out loud and actually feel it more tangible than just in our heads. And I suppose that is where I could see how, if it is we're getting that kind of chemical rush in our bodies, it becomes physical, and therefore it's not just something in our thoughts, it's also affecting our physical body in a very practical, measurable way. I could see where the immune function improvement could come in. Um, being in that better space in our thoughts, and being able to, I guess the body is in a better position to heal itself.
That makes a lot of sense. I really love
Yeah.
the way you talked about the ripple effect. That these are sort of baseline um, increases, but they ripple into all the other parts of our
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's so powerful.
Um, yeah, this is just a little bit of why you might want to journal. It's good for mental clarity, getting at the deeper threads behind any thought or action. It also gives you evidence to come back to when you're combating things like negative self-talk and imposter syndrome. And absolutely with gratitude. I know that I don't work with it as much as you do, Shelly Ann, but I certainly work with it. And the idea that maybe you feel like you don't have things to be grateful for. How could you possibly have a list? And then you come back to, if you're doing it regularly as a part of a planner or as a part of your journaling, which is certainly something that I encourage either in the morning or at night to start the day or end the day with gratitude, or
Yeah.
both.
It's there's actually a type of journaling called evidence journaling, and this is what works well in terms of that, making those lists. So I remember that's something that I never used to do. And I know we've mentioned Kelly before, and in this program she's one of the coaches that we engage with from time to time in Coaches Connection Corner. And she was the one who really encouraged me, what are the things you're celebrating today? Write them down. And, she would ask me questions and I wouldn't be able to answer. She said, but what did you do? And then I list it out and she said, but then write that down. That's good to celebrate too. And so now I do that more regularly. And so the days when I'm in a funk, I flip back through my journal and I read some of it and I think, huh, it's not too bad after all.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely do as well. Is especially there's some darker parts in my life where I was definitely journaling more. I find that I tend to fall away from my journaling practice when things are going really well. And I have to
Mm.
really push myself to journal more often when that happens. And then when things are sort of not going great, I find myself, leaning on that journaling as like, wait a second, like this is something that's going to make me get to the point of feeling better. And so I have more journaling from, there might be sporadic journaling when things are going well, and then there's more regular journaling when things aren't going so well. And so find it harder to go back to the good times because they're not represented as much. But
Mhm.
that's something that the lists is something that I definitely do, and so I'm thinking about I use my phone for lists, and those are things that I don't go back to. So yeah, Kelly's encouraging me now to go to them too.
Yeah, it's worth going back to them. And sometimes we forget that we can. And I had a recent experience where I discovered one of my journals from, I think it was 2014 or 2015. And I was reading through some of the pages, and it was like almost as if I was reading about someone else's life. It was such a strange feeling. But then I found some affirmations that I sort of reconnected with, and I found, some experiences and, positivity notes that I thought were quite, profound. And I thought, I wrote that.
I love that feeling. Are
Yeah.
these my words?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're gonna get a bit into the types of journaling here.
Mhm.
You can. I'm gonna read the list and then we'll go back and touch on them. So there's just diary and commentary journaling. You can do point form memories. You can do lists, things like best of or to do or goals. Gratitude journals, letters to self that can be past or future. Dream journals, bullet journals, and junk journals. And there are more, but we're going to focus on some of these
Mhm.
specifically. Uh, I tend to do more diary type journals when I'm writing, and then I'll intersperse different things with them. So a diary journal would just be commentary about what's happened in your life. Often it's like a snapshot of something that's going on for you right now, and
Mhm.
I tend to, I may have skipped a week of journaling, and so I try to like comment on, these are the things that happened over that time, and catch up every time. When I was younger, I used to actually write to a fictitious person. So my journal had a name, and
Mhm.
my diary was more like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I better catch you up with what's been going on at school or what's been going on with my friends." So That made it a little bit quirky for me, and I enjoyed that. I actually drew a picture of what this person would look like, and I stapled it to the inside of the journal. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's I think that's a great way to get younger people involved in journaling. And I guess any one of these could be your own creation, or they can actually be guided. Um,
mhm,
in terms of, you have prompts and different things that you could respond to. So even with a diary or the point form memories, you can have a prompt like, what's something that you really enjoyed doing today, and those types of things. So I tend to work with more of the guided journal, and I create my own, because what I've done is to kind of fuse several of these. So the gratitude journaling, um and the bullet journaling with the lists, those are what I combine in my journal. So I begin the day with the positivity, and then I go through my to-dos for the day, and I have the lists, and all the different things. And then I make a list of gratitudes. So at least three. I try to do three every day. And then at the end of the day, I try to do it at the end of the day. Sometimes I do it the next day when I'm beginning again, and I make a list of the things that I appreciated or that went well. So it's like a double dose of the gratitude, but one for general gratitude and then one for specific gratitude on what I appreciated in the day that has passed. So it's a kind of combination, and that's something that I think when it comes to journaling, I feel like when you're working with what works for you, sometimes it's a mix and it's not one or the other. Yeah.
yeah. I definitely tend to use letters to self in my journaling,
Mm.
especially when there has been trauma. I find that um, you know, in my therapy and in the work that I'm doing on myself, um, I may come to a point where I want to be able to write to the past self to say, hey, like it's not always going to be like this, and there's also the opportunity to write to your future self to say like, hey, I
Hmm.
want you when you've grown to remember what it was like.
Yeah.
And so that helps me when I'm working with clients because then I'm able to get in touch with those feelings.
Yeah. I just thought of something. Is there like a letter to present self, like I see you? I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm just asking.
there definitely is. There definitely is.
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes that's what a journal is, right? That's your present self.
The other day I was clearing out one of my clothing drawers, and I came across a letter that was to the back, and it was sealed, and on the front of it says, um open in 2028, and I think it was like May or June 2028. And I don't even remember writing that. It's my handwriting, but I don't remember writing it. And I am so tempted to open it right now to see what it is. So I put it back all the way to the back so that I can discover it at some other point.
I've done a lot of retreats, and one of the things that I
Mhm.
love at the end of a retreat is, especially if you've taken a week long retreat and you've gone to different classes and you've learned different skill sets to write. They have you write a letter to yourself, and then 6 months later they mail it to you, and
Mm,
it's about your experience. And it's like, oh wow, like I really picked up a lot of things. I can see in the last 6 months how this has impacted me. That
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that kind of stuff when somebody else is in control of the letter.
yeah.
I
I
also
like
wanted
that
to.
idea.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I really like that idea in terms of like mailing it to you. So it's not a matter of you forgetting it wherever you put it and discovering it like decades later. There's a set time that it's almost like a catalyst for the memory and the introspection. Yeah.
Absolutely. The other, I think I have pictures on this next slide. Yeah, the other one that I wanted to touch on is junk journaling. Um, you can see the photo here if you're not listening to our podcast, but I'll describe it a little bit. Junk journaling is sort of where you take um, any any kind of paper media, and it can be envelopes, it can be stickers, it can be from magazines, it can be torn out of old journals. The idea is that you're creating sort of a multimedia page that is connected to the words of your journal. And you can do both sides. You can do ones where you leave blank space for you to write in later, and you can do ones where you use pieces from a journal that you've already written in, and you
Hmm.
can also use it a little bit like a scrapbook. There's room to put things like, tickets from a concert or a train ride or something in there, or photographs or postcards. So
Yeah.
it becomes a whole multimedia memory of different events.
Yeah, I think scrapbooking is technically journaling. It's like a visual multimedia form of journaling when you really think about it, especially if you're scrapbooking around a theme or like daily activities or anything like that. You can see the connection between scrapbooking and journaling a lot more. And I think this is like we have so many different names. Sometimes we don't even call it a journal, but the act of, as you said, reflecting on these things really makes it come under the category of journaling. And I've done that. And again, I think this is an awesome way to get the younger folks to get more involved in journaling, or at least to introduce them to journaling in an interesting and fun way. Because I know one of the types of journals that I use is a writing journal, and I have my students keep a writing journal. And sometimes they think, oh, I have to write. I'm in class for writing, and then I have to write again. And then, and they look at writing as this kind of, ominous sort of thing they have to learn to do. But
A
when they're
chore.
writing journal, yeah, it really does become a chore because they're tested on it. So it's a task, it's a chore, and they're just trying to get over it as quickly as possible. But when the journal is more interactive and it's a lot more fun, and so outside of class, they're keeping this record of, they're cutting out pictures, they're doing drawings, different interactive things. It actually makes the journal feel more practical and feel more engaging, and that makes a difference, especially if it is that writing might feel like a chore. I know lots of adults, to them writing feels like a chore still. Starting with something like a scrapbook or that junk journal might be a really great way to begin journaling.
I can remember one of my earliest journals. I was going away on vacation with my family, but it was still a school time, and so I would have been, oh, maybe in grade 1 or 2, so I was quite young, maybe 6, and they gave me
Mhm.
one of those exercise books that has blank at the top and only a small bit of um, lines at the bottom. And the idea was, I remember I bought my very first neon crayons. So the whole thing was done in neon crayon, and I was to draw pictures of the different events and things that I did on my holiday for that week, and then along the bottom to write the story of what happened. And
Mhm.
I can remember laying on the ground on the carpet in the room that we were staying in, with the air conditioning blasting at us, and writing my little journal that I was doing for my teacher at the time. And it was very engaging to have both the
Mhm.
visual and the written. So that's definitely something. If you find yourself leaning more towards art, you can do comic strips of your life if you want.
Yeah.
There's no rules about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And what makes it even more impactful is that all of those things work toward the benefit of all the things that we discussed, reducing stress and all of that. So it's not to say that you have to write it down in actual words in order to gain the benefit. It is really just a process of reflecting and intentionally spending time reflecting on your life, your situations, whatever topic you choose to reflect on. It's just the act of doing that that creates those benefits. So, however you choose to engage with that, whether through art or, collage or writing with words, coloring, even all of that works toward the benefits. Absolutely.
Mhm. So yeah, here, the simple things that you need to journal are a notebook or just loose paper and a pen or pencil or marker or whatever art supplies you're going to bring into your practice, and time. You need to set aside time. It's important that you do that. And you can also journal online. Typing it out still counts. You're still going to get those benefits. Blogspot.com is an example of a free, I think Google owns them now, I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but there's all kinds of them online. I remember LiveJournal used to be a really big thing back in the day, and
Mhm.
you can either keep it private. You can only people that you want to see can see it, or maybe nobody but you sees it, or you can make it public so that it can be found by anybody online.
Yeah.
That's there's options.
Oh yeah, and there are lots of apps as well. I'm sure if you
Mm-hmm.
just go to whatever app store, just do a search for, app journaling apps that you could download to your phone. There are lots of different ones. They're the basic ones like the note-taking app where you could,
Mm-hmm.
type in stuff. There you can actually even do voice notes, not necessarily even
Yep.
write it down right away. You can do the voice notes and then later on reflect on the voice notes and document it. The idea really is, as I said, the word documentation. The idea really is to get it out of your own head and onto a space where you could look back on it. I think that's really I think the only stipulation that I would say for journaling, someplace where you could find it, read through it, look at it, reflect on it some more. That's what the real, I guess if you want to say the rule, if there's any rule at all with journaling, that's the one that I could think of.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Here's You can also buy journals, right? If a blank page scares you, there's writing prompt journals, there's dream journals. This is just a beautiful leather bound journal here. That might make it seem more intimate or special to you to be able to write in this. And then this last one that I have here is one line a day, and it's just looking at literally summing your day up in one line for 365 lines, and how does that come out for you, and then reading it back later. I've also come across. I did this myself one year. I did not get 52 of them, but I think I managed 38. But the idea is at the end of every week to take a piece of paper and just write yourself a note about the week and put it in a
Mm,
jar, fold it up and put it in a jar. And then on New Year's, you're supposed to have 52 pages that you can read and reflect on how your year went. So there's
yeah.
definitely lots of different prompts and apps and books. And the only thing that you don't want to do with a journal is leave it empty.
Yeah, yeah. Write something that's not nothing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally in love with that concept. So, in terms of like the journaling, I've found like the type of journaling that I do mainly, I've shifted from the diary style journaling because for me, having that sense of productivity that's always at the back of my mind, and with things like ADHD and anxiety and so on, what happens a lot is that there's this concept of, the time blindness, and we tend to look at tasks as well, look at projects and list them as tasks. So, one line item could be clean the house, as opposed to all the different things that need to go into cleaning the house. And so, what I've started doing, and what I've continued doing that has really helped a lot, is something called the focus journal. And like I said, the focus journal to me is like a combination of different types of journaling, gratitude definitely coming into play with that. And so the system is pretty much um, writing every day. And the length of time, I timed myself once because I thought, maybe people think of writing every day as something that's going to be tedious and they don't have time for it. It takes me 5 minutes or less to write what I'm writing at the beginning of every day. And so, as I said, I do the positivity and then the gratitude. So I write like maybe 6 sentences altogether, and it takes me really 5 minutes or less. So if you have at least 5 minutes that you can carve out from any time in the day, you can actually get into journaling and begin that habit of journaling. And so we have that daily, but then like twice for the week, and I do it back to back just because I don't want to spend like an hour or more at a time. So I do like 2 30-minute sessions where I reflect on the week past and take a look at the week to come. And I separated it into two. I used to try to do it in one, and then I figured out, all right, that's not working because I would miss it. I wouldn't do it. I would think, oh, so much time. But then I thought, hey, you don't have to do it all at once. And that's the beauty of journaling. Whatever you choose to engage with, you could mix it up and find a routine and a schedule that works for you, and, get into it. It doesn't have to look like what somebody else is doing. And that's something that I had to learn getting started. I tried all kinds of different journals and different things, and I always felt like, other than, just writing in a blank notebook, I couldn't really handle too much of the guided journals until I thought, you could create your own guided journal, right? You don't have to purchase one. You can just write down, take an hour a day and one day and write down maybe um 52 questions that you want to answer, and do one a week after that, and you're good. So there's so many options, lots and lots.
Absolutely. The options are all really endless with journaling. This just talks about when to journal. And it says every night before bed, you could do gratitude or a record of the day. After a therapy session, you might want to write about what happened in your therapy session. After a big event, you might want to, write a memory of that. You could
Hmm.
schedule a time in the week, like 15 minutes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then it also says whenever you feel the urge.
Yeah.
And the way that you do it, Shelly Ann, 5 minutes every morning, right? Like when to journal is really up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I will say two things here, even though when you do it, as long as it's done, is better than not doing it at all. Two things are, one, whatever time you choose, try to make it a time when you know you're not going to be interrupted. So you do want to set
Right.
aside that personal time. So it's you don't want to do it in the midst of something. Let's say you have a 5 o'clock appointment. You don't want to set it at 5 minutes to five or quarter, 15 minutes to five, when you are really in a mindset of preparing for this appointment. So choose a time when you could feel free and comfortable and not rushed to do the journaling. And the other thing is that I know recommendations are generally for mornings or evenings, and I tend to favor those two times of the day more than other times because you get started, especially for the gratitude journaling, I feel like because of that dopamine hit and the serotonin infusion you get from the gratitude, I feel like that is like the most amazing way to begin your day by writing down things that you're grateful for. So I call it infusing your life with gratitude. And so you start your day feeling, pumped and excited because of all you have going for you and all the things that you could be grateful for. And I feel that that's going to, really start your day off on a really amazing foot. And then at the end of the day, reflection before you go to bed, gratitude again, all the things that went well today. I mean, not everything might have been perfect, but can you find three things? Most certainly, I think if you think enough, you would be able to. And then going to bed with that amazing rush again, feeling, hey, things didn't go quite well, but I got this and I did that. And we feel really well going to sleep and therefore probably would be much more rested and therefore begin the next day. So it's kind of like a cycle. So I advocate for morning first thing, night last thing, and definitely a calm, clear space without interruptions. But there are times when, I get up and I rush out. Let's say I have something really early to do. And so I have to get up earlier than usual so I don't get to journal the way I have been accustomed to. Lunchtime, when I'm on my break, after I eat, I do it because remember, it's just like 5, 10 minutes. For me, when I do mine, it takes me like about 5 minutes or less. So I can pause, I can take that time. And it's something that I remind myself when I feel like, oh, I have to journal today. It's like, hey, dude, it's like 5 minutes. You can get that done.
Absolutely. You can fit that in just about
Yeah,
anywhere. And I wanted
yeah.
to say sometimes journaling, the way you talk about gratitude journaling pumping you up, it might be something that you do set an alarm 15 minutes before an appointment, depending on what the appointment is. And you
Oh,
take that
yeah.
5 minutes
To
to pump
infuse
yourself up
yourself.
with
Yep.
gratitude, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's what works for you. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I originally did this as two presentations, and I smushed them together here. So this next idea is about what you can do once you've been journaling for a while. You have a journal practice. You might have several journals that you have sitting around. You've filled them up. So what can you do when you have a journal? This says read back through your entries, pull out points to write new entries, so you can pull something out and
Mhm.
focus on a specific part. You can share important points and moments with a therapist or a coach to help them understand you and your journey better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I've done with. I find I haven't done it with the analog, but when I have a digital post, if I find that it's really, I've gotten really into the subject matter that I worked on with my therapist or my doctor, I might email them a copy of that to say, hey, like, I just wanted you to have some more backstory about what we were talking about.
And I think that is one of the benefits of journaling that I don't know that we necessarily talk about as much, because a lot of times when we look at journaling, we look at it as a personal journey and as something that we do for ourselves. But in a situation where you may want to engage a therapist or you have to go to a doctor and so on, these are very, very good opportunities to, you're documenting your reflections, your thoughts, what is actually happening, and you're journaling about these things. And you have something written that, let's say, if you try to remember all of it, you get to the doctor and you remember 2 out of 5 things. But if you have it written down, and it's in your journal, you could present and you can go back and you can share with it. So it's not just about reflecting on your own, but sometimes you can use what's in the journal to share with someone else. I mean, I've had a situation where, like, somebody was asking me something about, okay, there was a situation, raising some tension, and the person said, "Well, what used to happen before then?" And I couldn't answer. But then I remembered that I had a journal and I was journaling at the time. So I went and I found the journal and I was able to look back and see, okay, these things happened on this date. And I was able to say, hey, you see, and this is what I was talking about that I couldn't think of at the time or couldn't share. And so it's it is very useful for us personally, but also consider, as Cass mentioned there, that it can be used to engage other people as well.
Yeah, something we didn't touch on when we talked about different types, because there are lots of types, um, is medical diaries and like logs that you might keep. That still might be considered journaling. Where my son
Yeah.
keeps a migraine log, and he has to write about, can he remember what he ate the night before, what the weather was, how he's feeling, how he, what medication he took to try and deal with it, um,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
maybe the how long it lasted, and then he might write a bit more of a note about it afterwards. And those are the kinds of things that definitely you want to be able to keep regularly if you have something medical that's going on and you're
Mhm.
trying to get some
Mhm.
support with it. So that's
Yeah.
something that is still journaling in a way.
Because it is reflecting, and I think with the understanding of journaling as this written reflection or like printed reflection, because it could be artwork and stickers even, that printed reflection of or documenting the reflection of whatever the situation is. With that kind of definition of journaling, it forms a huge umbrella over many things that people might not consider journaling, and they might actually be doing some of these and thinking, oh, I need to start a journaling practice. But then when they look at things, it's like, wait, I was doing that all along.
Absolutely. Next thing up is about keeping them for future generations. So I have a Rubbermaid bin, a tote, and it is full. I've been journaling since I was about 12. I have my very first diary. It had a little lock on it. It's
Wow.
broken now. I have no idea where the key is for that. It was very small, and it's just a little bit of things that I wrote on it. I was
Hmm.
learning cursive at the time, so I was practicing it in my journal, and it's very messy. Um, but yeah, I've definitely been keeping journals for a very long time, and so I have this history, and I'm very slowly trying to digitize it all. By very slowly, I mean I've been working on the same book for a couple years, so eventually it will happen. Eventually
Oh, but
that will
that is
become a
awesome.
priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you
So
imagine, like, the somebody discovering it, family member like down the generations and thinking, hey, this is great, great, great Grandma Cass's journal.
yeah, so it says here whether they're fancy leather bound books or simply loose pages folded together in a shoebox, leaving them to your children's children to see how you thought about the world in your era is a pretty fantastic way to share the past. We have a
Absolutely.
shoebox of the letters between my grandmother and my grandfather when they were courting. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to read
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, that is awesome.
The other thing here is use them for other crafts. So similar to junk journaling, you can take pages or passages from your journals, turn them into new art. One of the examples here is block out poetry or collage, and that was pretty new for me. If you're just listening,
Yeah.
I'll try to describe some of the this. So you can do this with your own journal, or you can do it with a book. And what you do is you black out the things that you don't want to be seen, and you leave the white space with the things that you do want to be seen. And you can do this making just lines, or you can do this making visual pictures. And so you end up with something that says something that you want to say with your writing or with a book's writing, but it can also look very pretty to see.
Yeah, I had never encountered this before. I mean, I saw something similar, but I never really got into it. I didn't consider it even as part of like a journaling practice because it felt so different. But what you're doing is that you're reflecting, and it is a very awesome and artistic way that I'm actually considering, I'm sure there are books that I have somewhere with the dust, just on the shelf because
Yep.
I love books and I have hundreds and hundreds of books. But there are some that are especially um, certain types of books. The information could be outdated and so on. And, so you could
Mhm.
use a book like that because if I go mention this to my kids, they would think, oh my gosh, that is, what's the word? Defacing the book.
Sacrilege.
Yes, it's
Yes,
sacrilege.
yes,
How dare you
yes.
do this to the printed word?
Yeah.
But it's an
We
awesome
actually,
expression.
yeah, the first time we made junk journals is we took books apart to do it. And it was very difficult for me. They were older books, and it was very difficult for me to be like, okay, I'm creating something, I'm reusing something, I'm recycling, right? Like I'm repurposing something. I was trying to, make it okay in my
Yeah.
head. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that would be so painful for me. Hmm.
Another thing you can do with your journals is you can write your memoir. You can have all this information about you and your life together in one place. Easy peasy, write your memoir and share yourself with the world. I have a link here, kdp.amazon.com. You can self publish your book there. It's really simple. They'll do, depending on where you are in the world, and they'll do print on demand, so you don't have to get all this money up to buy 10,000 copies of your book. You can just, have them order it from the Amazon site. It's super
Hmm.
simple.
And even with I don't know how Amazon works in the back end, but I know with their other sites like Lulu, that's the one that I checked on because I think Amazon, I wanted to get spiral bound
Okay.
journals, and Lulu does the spiral bound, and you can actually upload your stuff to Lulu and get one printed just for you if that's all you want.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's excellent.
Yeah, so you can get that professionally printed and bound and sent to you, and you just pay for the one that you do. And that's
That's
and that's it.
excellent.
And so I thought that was amazing as well. So let's say you want to publish it, but you just want like maybe 10 copies for your friends and your family. You don't really want to, send this out into the world per se. You can do that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So the other thing you can do with your journal is you can burn them safely. Don't burn your house down doing this, but you can definitely, preferably outside, burn them safely. Many people consider it a way of freeing themselves from the words on the page. It can be cathartic. Often
Yeah.
people journal about tough things that are hard to put into words, and they don't want to share them with others. So burning a journal can feel like a release.
Yeah, I did that. I went through because I've been journaling for like it began more of a diary than a journal. So, reflection on experiences and just outlining what was going on during the day and lots of stuff from the past. And I went through, I had stacks and stacks and I decided, I said, you know what? I want to step forward and sort of let go of the past. And so, yeah, I made a bonfire outside and I separated out some pages, burnt certain ones, and then burnt the entire book. And it really was very, very cathartic. And I felt like I'm free. So I let that go, I let it out. And this was my way of forgiving myself and others. And I'd probably do it again if I did those kinds of journals again. But now I'm into the productivity one, so I'm holding on to those.
Yeah, I'm actually I've done some solstice writing and then burnt it, but I'm not very good at letting go, so I usually take a picture of it with my phone first and then I burn it. I don't think that's the practice, so don't learn that from me.
Yeah, it can be really challenging to let go. So yeah.
So this is another great thing I found on the internet. It's called the Great Diary Project, and the website is thegreatdiaryproject.co.uk. And it is a I just lost the word. I want to say compendium, but um, catalog of diaries from way back when to current.
Oh
People
wow.
can mail them in their diaries, and they have volunteers who will digitize all of the different diaries. They also have some of the newsletters of things that went around. I different countries and different things they were going through, and so there might be a picture I have here is of the gay news from California back in the 70s, 1972, and what life was like then if you were gay in the U.S. And there's all kinds of, it's a repository. That's the word I was looking for earlier. It's a repository of so many diaries and journals, and I think one of the ones they're looking for right now is COVID. Do you have journals
Mm.
from lockdown? I think that's something they're looking to represent.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. And sometimes, and like when you're making it public like this, and remember we were talking earlier about using journals to share. So it's not just about reflection for you personally, but it can help others understand life and other people. And I feel like this is another way. Remember one of the points that you had under benefits of journaling, the emotional growth and development, and that I can't remember the exact words, was emotional something. But we can read other people's ideas and thoughts like this in the raw form, not edited, not sanitized, not curated in a sense, curated only because it was digitized and put up. Um, but we get to see humanity on a whole different level, and I think sometimes we do need to see this raw form to remember that, hey, this person however many decades ago, they're feeling something that I'm feeling right now, and it connects us in ways that we couldn't even possibly imagine.
Yeah, here's a little bit of Steve. He likes to say the best day to start whatever it is. So here it is. The best day to start journaling was yesterday. The second best day to start is today. So
Yeah.
we encourage you to start your journaling practice now. And you can reach out to Shellyanne or myself or Steve or any of your coaches that you may be working with and say, hey, I really want to get into journaling. What's a good way for me to start? Can you give me some prompts? You can definitely check out my blog for some of that, and
Yeah.
you can just search the web for 100 best journal prompts, and it'll come up with more than you can imagine.
Yeah, and if ever it gets overwhelming, like Cass said, reach out to someone, because since journaling is such a huge thing, if you do a search, the number of responses you would get, there are lots of different kinds, and sometimes when we have so many options, we might think, okay, how do we do this? Well, ask a friend, ask a coach, or someone, if there's something particular that you're dealing with and you want to know how journaling can help you with it. Yeah, definitely reach out. And so yeah, this is about the time when I'm looking at the clock where we begin to wrap up. And oh yeah, that slide, yes, I have to, I'm going to read it. It says there is no wrong way to journal, and that's it, full stop. That's an amazing end to the conversation. As we do usually, though, we have well, we're gonna take a few more minutes to mention what we might be talking about next week, and then yeah, that's over to you, Cass.
Yeah, so I was thinking something along the lines of compassion. Have we done that as a topic? I have it on my list of potential topics.
I
Did we do
think
self compassion? You have a list.
have yeah, I'm going through the list now. I think we have.
Okay,
It
I'll
was
take it off
actually
my potential.
episode 2. So that's like
Oh,
last
well,
year,
that's why I don't
September.
remember.
Yeah,
Um,
it was one of
what
the
about
early ones.
repetition? Have we talked about specifically repetition or
No, no, we
no?
haven't. No. We've looked at consistency. So I don't know if repetition comes into consistency, but we haven't looked at repetition as a topic in and of itself.
Is that
So
something you want to talk about or not?
um
Or do you think consistency covers it?
well, for the repetition that I would talk about, I would say consistency covers it, but I would love to see where we would go with repetition. And maybe with repetition, we could probably consider um, maybe going into a bit more detail. And even though we've done compassion, compassion was, like I said, second episode, I think is probably still an option to do again. And then consistency was episode 15. We're at episode 35. So I think either one really um would be possible. So I guess we can have a chat with Steve, and then so guys, you
All
need
right.
to join us next week and see what we decide and where we're heading with the conversation. And
All right,
so
that's excellent.
yep. So I would like to say thank you for everyone who was able to take in the live. We appreciate you greatly for sticking it out with us for the time. And for those of you who are looking at the recording, we appreciate you too for taking your time. And we welcome comments. Let us know what works, what doesn't work. If you have a topic suggestion, we'd really love to hear what you'd like the conversation to be about as well. And just like that, we're done for this week. Any final
All
words,
right.
Cast? Or we good?
No, we're good. I'll see everybody next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.